Hi, hi.
No, it's good to see you again.
You too. You
Awesome,
too.
awesome. Yeah, like we didn't speak 30 seconds ago.
I know. Hey, it's off show, right?
It's for the camera. Hi, guys.
We might as well admit it. Yes, we do talk before the show to make sure we're on the same, but we don't go into a whole lot of detail because we want the talk to be fresh when we're on the air. But we have to get our ducks in a row so we're somewhat organized for the show. And then we spent all of last week together. Yay!
Got a ton of cool material from it as well that we're going to share with you guys.
Yeah, so Margot, tell them what this show's all about and who we are.
Absolutely. This is Eyes of Indigo, and I am Margot. Beside me is Iris, and we are your co host. Iris is your producer and director and researcher and 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 a great conversationalist, obviously. And
Thank you.
absolutely.
And Margot helps on all
And I
aspects.
helped.
So okay. Hey, shake and bake.
You can learn a lot about Iris at iriscarter.com. You can write to her on email at iris@iriscarter.com. If you're interested in what else I do, I am at indigoanswers.com or Margot at indigoanswers.com. And you can also see some more work I do on networkthelight.net, which Iris is on that website as well. networkthelight.net.
I'm just everywhere. I just manage to creep
She
in where
is.
I can.
And this is Eyes of Indigo, a weekly podcast that she and I do together every Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you'd like to see, whoa, we've been doing this since September of 2020. So if you'd like to see more about, learn about the credentials and the background of Iris and I, please, if you're new to the show, go back to after this one, go back to the first episode and see the prequel, which will is a fun rattle off conversation of our credentials, our background, and so on that led us to do this podcast in the first place. Um, we kind of need to update that one too because stuff has happened to us since then.
Yeah, I was thinking about
Yeah,
that
so
just now. I'm like, okay, let
that's
me
almost
add
3
that
years
on
old.
the long list of.
Yeah, exactly. Our resumes have increased. So you can also learn what past topics we have covered in the Eyes of Indigo directory that is on Iris's website at iriscarter.com, the directory of EOI. Is that right? Yeah, Eyes of Indigo.
Yeah.
And it has a whole search function, step by step, super easy, super simple at the top of it. Over 100 topics are there, and you can grab episodes that we discuss that. We also have had guest speakers along the way on specific topics. So please have fun surfing all around. You can also hear us on Spotify and iTunes and other aggregates in audio recordings of past episodes. So if you're driving down the road and that's when you've got time to listen, sure, find us on iTunes or Spotify or similar and grab your past episodes with us there. And we have no plans of stopping. We've got some
None yet. No,
yep, we've got some cool
we'll chug
topics
along as
going up.
long as y'all are listening.
So what are our topics?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you. Welcome anybody that has returned and you are a regular on the show. We appreciate you. Thank you. And our topics we've summarized in our motto, so to speak, which is Iris. Do we have the meme for that?
I knew you were going to ask for that.
No
And
worries,
you
I
know
can
what? I
say it.
accidentally deleted it.
The motto of our show is discussing weird stuff in a rational way. And our goal is essentially to communicate coping tools, coping skills with a sense of humor. So we make fun of ourselves, we make fun of the crazy things that are going on in the world, but we also bring you factual information or hypothesis opinions that have research behind them as well. And our job is to encourage you to find out what you want to know, what you need to know, and have coping skills during these crazy, mixed up, unusual times that are going to probably get a little more crazy, at least for a couple of years. So, but it's going to get better after that. And one of the things
And now
Iris and I are both very, very psychic, and we are both professional mediums who discuss weird stuff in a rational way.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And you can catch us on Facebook or YouTube. We are coming to you live. If you've got a question or a comment, please feel free to type, tappy type, at least say hello or ask us questions, make comments in the comment section or the chat room of YouTube or Facebook link. We would love to hear from you, and we love to address whatever you guys bring. So we are live. We're happy to bring it. Bring it.
And I tell you what, I'm going to put our little lottery jar up here. See, it's, well, I'll put it there on the dark. I don't like it there. Do I like it there? Do I like it
I
there?
like it there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is our lottery jar. If you make a comment and say hello, your head is going to roll into that jar.
Okay, this is the crap we laugh about. The choice of words was superb. I love it. Keep going.
Yeah. And to clarify, it's your little head icon. So if you comment during this live presentation, your name will go in there, and at the end, we're going to click it, and it's going to pull one of the names out of the jar, and I'll send you one of our Eyes of Indigo bells.
Yay!
I don't know if it rings or not on that. But
it didn't. But it does actually ring like a cowbell. Oh, I can make it do it or not.
Yours did a little bit, yeah.
Before it came out. So we've got two. Hello, Rosemary and Tanya. Yay, Tanya's awake for this one.
The heads are in there now.
Yeah, that's why we record this, so you can catch it online later or catch it on audio later. And guys, please like, share, subscribe, any of those with your friends, loved ones, especially interested in similar topics. We're very happy to spread the good information if you'll help us do that. Yeah.
Yes. So,
Ours tonight, where are we going?
Okay. Well, I want to back up for just a second. Last week we attempted to do live. Hello, Nancy. Oh, awesome. This is her first time visiting our show. We're glad you're here. I hope you enjoy it. So last week we were live from Grafton, Illinois. And before I left, I scheduled the YouTube stream live because the program that we use to stream directly on YouTube and Facebook simultaneously most weeks, I couldn't access on the cell phone, and we didn't have like a laptop with us, so we were doing it from the cell phone. So I just scheduled a live show from YouTube, scheduled it, put the link on Facebook, and when it came time to do it, I pulled it up on the phone. It was looking for my computer camera. It wasn't letting me start the program from YouTube on my phone. So we just had to kind of start it a new one. And so if you missed it, you can go back and look. I'm honestly, I haven't looked at it myself. I know it's kind of jumbly. We were literally running through kind of showing everybody where we were. And we went outside and we talked for a bit and talked about some of the things. And it was a relatively short, I think it was 40 minutes that we were on the air. Mm-hmm. So there's no real introduction. There's no real cutoff, but you get to see a couple of people there and see where we were and us talking about what we were doing, which was called the
Journey to Truth Conference.
Journey to Truth Conference. And if you go to Journey to Truth con.com,
you'll see more.
You'll see more information about it. And it was just fascinating. Journey to Truth is another podcast. It's well worth checking in and seeing who their guests are. And we met all kinds of people, learned all kinds of stuff. And we actually have a couple of guests coming on that we've already got one booked and have a couple others that I've reached out to that will be adding to the show in the coming weeks
Coming to
or
our show.
months, depending on how their schedule
Yeah.
is. Yeah, so we're real excited. But it was a hodgepodge of every topic paranormal and spacey and that you could imagine.
You still have the syllabus in front of you of the speakers? You want to rattle off the topic title, not really the speakers' names. Sometimes that gets thrown. Rattle off some of the topics that we heard, and trust me, guys, the speakers.
I don't know if I have.
That sheet. They spoke.
It doesn't have what they were talking about, though.
They spoke way more than their topic, but that is a good overview of the 10 different speakers.
Well, the topics aren't on here. Actually, it just has the names of the people.
Oh, I thought it did.
No,
the one I have, it's written on the back. Yeah.
Yeah, you wrote it on the back. But like Sherry Divband, she's
New Earth Children.
Psychic. Yeah, New Earth Children. Jessica Jones is the Cryptid Huntress. We're going to talk about her in a minute, and we're hoping to have her on the show. Barry Littleton is a psychic experienced with ghosts and
UFOs, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
All that. Yeah.
There were panel discussions. There was a secret space program panel. Margie Kay, she talked about aliens and
her journey.
And her journey. We had Brad Olson.
Yes.
Brad knew a lot of the other speakers. So anyway, it was incredible. Look them up and look at their pages and stuff like that, because they're all on that website, journeytotruthcon.com.
It's Journey Digit 2 Truth. So it's Journey number 2 Truth Con.
I typed in Journey to
they may have
TOUTHcon.com.
They probably got both URLs.
Okay, yeah, because I got journeytotruthcon.com. And
either way, you'll get there. It was in Illinois at Pierre Marquette State Park. Yeah. So we were doing a little bit of glamping, as well as you might say, as we were out there. We weren't actually in a room, but we were in a rustic cabin with a third friend of ours, and it was conference was off the hook. It was really awesome. Yeah.
So all right, so with that, and kind of following up to that, tonight's program is about cryptids. We're going to do kind of an overview, not a deep dive, but an overview. Let me move the jar. And I threw a few in this picture, but yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore. Dorothy was scared of lions and tigers and bears until she had to deal with flying monkeys. So what's in your neck of the wood?
We're going to tell you what seems to be showing up in various necks of woods in this country and elsewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those creatures.
It's almost kind of hard to know exactly where to start, but I guess we could start with
what does cryptid mean, and what is cryptid zoology? What is that referring to? Because we keep using that word.
Yeah. So why don't you talk about that? Because I've been going on for a little bit.
Okay. All right. Cryptid zoology is the study of it's based on the word zoology. It's the study of animals. In this case, cryptid animals, also called cryptid. They are called cryptids by themselves. What is a cryptid? Those are unusual beasts and animals and creatures that are generally relegated to myth and legend, except for there is occasional evidence and photography available substantiating that they probably did exist or still do exist, depending on what they are and where they are. For example, big one, Bigfoot. Is a really common one. Chupacabra is a big one in Latin culture. Loch Ness Monster is another popular one. But then there are less heard of ones, such as pterodactyls, wolfmen, lizardmen, frogmen, mermaids, and more. Yeah, there you go. She's got little frog blood in her. Hi, Lisa. Yay. Hello. And there's more.
Yeah.
There's dozens and dozens more. We're just hitting the big ones that tend to frequent North America, so that it's relevant to you, our audience, for the most part. So that's what we mean when we say the word cryptids. CRYPT as in Tom, ID as in dog. Cryptid or cryptid zoology, the study of them.
Cryptozoology. Yeah.
Cryptozoology, maybe. Yep, there's another way. Bigfoot is an international star. And we're showing, Iris has popped up a picture that AI artwork has created based on descriptions of what Bigfoots look like. And that's the composite it ended up with. But Bigfoot shows up as Yetis. They show up in Asia. They show up in Australia. They show up in Europe. Harry and the Hendersons is a very popular Bigfoot comic.
They show up in movies.
For sure. And Iris has her own rendition of the Bigfoot call. Give us can you belt that one out? That was a quiet one. It was her baby Sasquatch.
Oh, really? It didn't. It probably the darn.
It modified it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we believe.
Yeah, but yeah. What was his name?
Chewbacca.
In Chewbacca in Star Wars. I mean, is that was Bigfoot?
That was
obviously.
a Bigfoot. Yeah, there was a whole planet of Wookiees. Wookiees are Bigfoots.
So while we're on the topic, let's tell them about our experience. Because, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I know local people that go down around between Charlotte and the mountains, kind of in the
foothills,
in the Appalachians to do some searching.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've seen enough pictures that you're kind of like, yeah, it could be a guy in a gorilla suit walking through and it could be a joke. But
some of them, there's no way.
We've got a lot more woods and wilderness than people realize in our world. And it's kind of like things that make you go, And so, there's a Bigfoot festival, Lisa pointed out. Yes,
there's one in Ohio that we know about. I'm sure they're all over the place. Yeah. Squatching. It's called squatching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sasquatch. Yeah. And one of the things that kind of made it a little more realistic was you were talking about before we left about seeing where the one theory is that they're interdimensional creatures and that they
highly intelligent interdimensional creatures. Yeah.
Yeah, so they can come across the veil, so to speak, or pop in and out as they want.
Disappear.
Maybe they don't actually live here, but they're portals.
Some do, some don't, from what I can tell. Most of them don't. Yeah. They just visit for whatever reason, which is our number one question. Why do you guys keep coming here? Do you live here? Or is there something we have that you are fascinated by or need or want? But we haven't actually talked to one face-to-face. However, as Iris mentioned, we believe that we experienced them a little bit. Please continue, Iris.
Yeah, so
last week.
Last week we were at the conference, and I think it was on Wednesday night. A woman came in and and first of all, that park is a known area for sightings. It's one of the
It's a
busy
state
areas
park.
where they,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a state park, and there have been sightings reported there. And this one woman came in. She was in cabins that were adjacent to the resort where the conference was happening. And she came in and was talking about in the middle of the night, she heard this whooping noise and heard banging. It was like flat fisted bang, bang, bang on the side of a wall.
And tree
And
knock. And she heard the tree knock too.
yeah. And so that was kind of like everybody's like, oh, and we were kind of about a quarter mile from the lodge and staying in a cabin, and probably less than 50 yards from our cabin was the bathhouse. And it was our last night there on Thursday night. And we had been out to the campfire and we'd gone up to the UFO site place where they were looking for UFOs.
Overlook.
And we
There's an
came back
overlook
to our,
overlooking the valley and the river. Yeah.
yeah. And so we came back to our site, and Margot and I walked up to the bathhouse together. And as we were going up, we heard some people going whoop 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 whoop. It was kind of almost like a coyote, almost like people, sort of somewhere in between. And we kind of laughed. We said, well, it's not coyotes because it's not multiples and it's not going on and on like dogs and coyotes will do. It's probably just somebody screwing around. And we go to the bathroom and all, and then go back to our cabin. We go to bed. The next morning, the other woman who was in the cabin with us said, my God, did you hear the Sasquatch out there last night? And we're like, what? We did not. And she said it
right through it.
was loud and it was right outside the cabin. And so we looked up on the internet, thank goodness for the internet, and we found different calls of Sasquatch that have been recorded. And we said, does it sound like this one? No, it didn't sound like that. Does it sound like this one? And it was one that went whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah. And she goes, that's it. That's whoop, it. And it was the same sound Margot and I had heard the night before. So it was really crazy that we heard it off in the woods.
Prior.
And then
Yeah.
And then she heard it in the middle of the night and said it sounded like it was right outside the window kind of thing. And so we're like, And it was quiet on the camp. There weren't a lot of people camping. There weren't pranksters out there.
It was all
the people that had children
and parents.
Small children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was super quiet. I mean, people nobody was drinking. Nobody was having campfire parties. Very few decorative lights. It was a very, very sedate campground. There weren't teenagers. There weren't college kids. Messing around kind of thing. It wasn't that energy at all the whole week. Something went down, and our cabin partner friend, she said she heard the whoop whoop, and she also heard the tree knocking. Which, if you're not familiar, guys, the Sasquatch are known for taking logs and banging them on trees because it makes a really long, loud thok, thok, thok that can be heard for miles. So, then the speaker that heard it, she said she heard it. She looked at the time at 4:30 in that morning. Yes, Bigfoot Museum in Roanoke Rapids, I believe. Okay.
Yeah. And then Lisa, are they whooping to get away from their female mate?
I said, we don't know why they're coming. And Lisa wrote to get away from their female mates. And what's interesting, just a little bit further, before we didn't get to, nobody commented on this during the conference because the conference covered so much information over the 4 days that it went on. But traditionally, it's reported that Bigfoots are not big fans of dogs. They don't seem to like dogs. They seem to be afraid of them. They seem to be hostile to them, and dogs tend to be hostile towards them or afraid of them. Not sure what's going on there, but what I've seen is coming to this dimension, whether they're multidimensional or whether they're just the world's best hide and seekers, and they occasionally come out in front of humans, the way they react to us, the way they disappear, the way they are hostile about our best friends, the dogs, apparently being around humans is a threat to them. It is an endangerment to be near humans because they obviously actively avoid us up to recently. So that's why we're asking, why do y'all come here? And apparently there's been sightings though of Bigfoot children. All right, so they're juveniles, but not little ones. Their juveniles do come through. And apparently once in a while a female will be identified. She has furry boobs. And I've seen
furry boobs.
Yeah, furry boobs.
Oh,
breasts.
Oh,
She has
okay.
furry breasts.
Okay. I didn't know if it was boots or boobs.
Furry tatas. So apparently the females come through too. Apparently the females are about the same size as the males. Until you get a close look at them, can you tell if their body features? They tend to look mammalian, almost like gorillas. They're often described as ape men or gorilla men. So that's how you can tell if they're female, is by their mammalian homo anatomy. Yeah. So, and they're different colors too. There's black, there's brown, there's blonde, there's white, there's yellow.
And there's different versions of the species. Some are considered like you never want to go near them because they're just vicious, and others are kind of like Harry and the Henderson types, but they don't, none of them really come close to people. And we heard a lot of this from the cryptid huntress. Her name is Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
And her I'll throw her website up in just a minute, but Jessica, she told her story about how she got into it, and she's been actively with teams hunting and has had, she said, over 100 experiences with Sasquatch. And I think she said something like probably at least 20 face-to-face
encounters.
And one of her first, and she hunts with, she said a lot of the other hunters are people who are
Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, search and rescue, search and recovery professionals, stuff like that.
Yeah, so these are people who are professionally out in the woods, know their stuff. They never give away where exactly they go because they don't want to have other people go in and create issues. But she said her first encounter, the first time she went out on a hunt, they were like in a tree line looking at an open field.
Can I, real quick, guys, we don't mean, she does not mean hunter, huntress, and hunting in the sense that it typically means. They're actually doing tracking. They're tracking.
Yes.
They are not shooting these beings. They are not killing them. They're not doing anything like that. They're literally just tracking them and documenting them. So I just wanted to clarify, they don't actually hunt and kill. That's not their thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like ghost hunters, cryptid hunters.
Right.
It's that
like a ghost hunter. They're seeking.
Yeah.
They just seek.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
And
Please continue.
and yeah, but her story was the first time, okay, they were in a tree line looking at an open field that went up into a hill where previous sightings had been. And she volunteered and was sort of, they said, okay, go on out. She was going to walk across this field and go towards the hill where all these trees were
a tree line
seen before.
A tree line. Yeah.
And the guys in the bushes watching her had heat sensor cameras. And they could see her walking across the field. And she said she got out there and she heard somebody running up behind her. And she thought, they're messing this up. Why are they coming up behind me? But she kept walking kind of a little bit slower. And when she heard it get real close, she said, I used to play sports and I know what it's like when somebody tackles you. And so she kind of braced herself for a tackle.
She used to play
But
rugby. Yeah.
yeah, she said, but instead of a tackle, she felt something brush by her legs and heard the running continue, but she couldn't see anything. And she lost her balance and kind of threw her hands up in the air. And she said that was throwing your hands up in the air was a signal to everybody, I need help.
Distress signal.
Right. And so one of the guys immediately comes running out. What's wrong? And you threw your hands up in the air. And she said, oh, I lost my balance. I thought one of y'all just ran out here. And they said, no, we're all still back there. And she said, well, what ran by me? And they said, we heard nothing. We saw nothing. There was no heat sensor of whatever it was that chased her down and brushed up against her. It didn't show up on the cameras, which and she knew there were smells and feelings, and it was not in her imagination. So it's kind of cool that they don't even appear on heat sensor cameras. So that was kind of like her first experience, but she's had multiple and she has actually seen them and knows for a fact she's seen them. So she's a true blue believer. We're hoping to get her. We talked to her at the conference and she's willing to come on the show. We're just in the process of trying to schedule it, and she can tell you a lot more about her
what she does. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're interested, I'm going to throw her
website.
Yeah, there you go. And
she does interviews and podcasts and reports a lot on different types of cryptids, not just Bigfoot. She does a variety of stuff. She does the little people and the pterodactyls and so on, and the chupacabras and all that.
Yeah, which is kind of hard to believe that. I mean, that was one of the things that was mentioned, the pterodactyls, which I put on our little flyer. Holy cow!
That one blew me away. I was like, holy crap, that's one I hadn't heard of yet. There's pterodactyls in the sky and have been. There's what? You've got a picture of somebody that shot one and held it up for trophy or something?
I don't have that picture. No.
They showed us pictures of that.
From they showed that. It was an old picture. There's
old black and white from the 1800s, but people have footage. You can go on YouTube and whatever, and you can see footage of birds that have the long beak and the long head and the giant bat wings, so to speak. And the flight pattern and the flap is not normal. One person was actually reported hunting in a swamp. I think it was in Florida, and he was on the edge of the water looking across it to an embankment several yards away, but not too far. And the other side of the embankment went up and down, trees, whatever. And he heard something moving around on the opposite embankment, so he stopped and waited. And a creature popped its head up, looked around, and did one push with its wings, brought its wings up and went boom, and launched straight up in the air off of one flap. And it launched so darn far he couldn't see it. It went out of sight on one flap. That is powerful. That would be.
And there's people that have said, oh, that's a tern or something, but then they see it land and it's got bat wings.
It's huge.
It's not feathered.
Yeah. You can see pictures of it.
So
pterodactyls apparently are still here and have been for hundreds of years.
Yes.
But in remote locations.
And another thing, I know that everybody has seen weird pictures of weird sea creatures that are being discovered. And I bring that up because, if we're just now discovering sea creatures, regardless of how they're being discovered, and people have said all along there are plants and animals in the rainforests that have not been discovered yet. Scientists know they're out there, but they don't know what they are. Why is it so hard to believe that these other creatures could be in existence and we just haven't? Yeah. And tell them about the theory about what's happening with the sea creatures while I pull up this article real quick.
Excellent. One of the speakers, his name is Dr. Brooks Agnew. He's former military, former researcher, a master engineer, master this, master that, a doctor of physics, a doctor of astronomy, on and on and on. He spoke, and he spoke at length about inner Earth and the potential for there being huge caverns under the surface of the Earth that have their own biology and ecosystems, and meaning plants and animals, and possibly even intelligent life as well. I'm being vague on purpose. And the phenomenon that Iris is referring to, that he spoke about at length, is with all the planet global warming and the icebergs splitting and falling apart, and ice shelves and glaciers receding for miles down and miles wide back. It is creating cracks all the way back up to the North Pole and even the South Pole, but he spoke mostly about the North Pole, leading to the very famously, you can look this up, the very famous hole that seems to be in the North Pole that even Admiral Byrd documented at length when he journeyed there and claimed to have gone inside of it and seen this jungle-like warm center of the Earth, secondary inner Earth. But what has happened?
Can you say Aquaman? If anybody's seen Aquaman,
yeah, yes, that was one reveal, absolutely. And Journey to the Center of the Earth, that's another reveal. But anyway, the water, the ocean here, is all the frozen ice up there is breaking open and creating accesses to the water and the oceans that are also in the inner Earth, meaning that the sea creatures from the inner Earth can now swim up, and apparently they do.
And this article was just printed. Oh, don't tell me.
It zoomed away.
I hit it. Yeah, I hit it.
The frilled shark is one unusual creature that has not existed on the surface for millions of years, and suddenly it has showed up. This one is, which one's called? I can't see the name of this one.
This article is more than it. It's in the Guardian, and it was printed last week, May 25th. Yes. And it's more than 5,000 new species discovered in a Pacific deep sea mining hotspot. And this is a gummy squirrel. And I'll show you another picture of it in a minute. They called it that because it's kind of gummy and it's got a long tail.
Sort of like a jellyfish, guys.
Right. Yeah. And this is a type of sponge believed to be new to science. Not the hook thing out there, but the sponge.
The white thing.
Yeah. This is a different kind of sea anemone and whatever. And
another type of starfish.
Oh, here's another picture of the gummy squirrel.
So there's also very deep invasive deep sea mining going on, as they mentioned, going on in the Pacific as well, which means they're going to start hitting tunnels, which have water in them, which have sea creatures that have not been on the surface in millions of years, apparently, and they're coming up. So that's another way that these old beings might be coming to the surface, and you might still start hearing more about this kind of cryptid. Here's another one. What you got there?
This is pictures of newly discovered deep sea creatures. This one is a deep sea batfish. Look at that face. Isn't it adorable?
He is. He's in the Indian Ocean, close to a volcano. Yeah.
And this one is a blind eel that births live young.
Which is unusual for for them. Yep.
And this is a high fin lizard fish. Look at them teeth.
Little tiny needle teeth. Yeah.
And then a viper fish. And there's a close up of it. And this is a flatfish, and there's another picture of the flatfish. Looks like his eyeballs are weird. I don't know.
Hey, that's what happens to flounders. So it must be some kind of maybe a distant relationship to a flounder.
Yeah. So those were just, and this whole article talks about that. Let me take that down. And then
It's coming through the water. So what else?
okay, so another just while I'm on the sites, let me show you another one I found that I thought was interesting. It's they did a search through Google Analytics and other stuff, and it's like, what are the most popular cryptids by state? And this is over here. It's based on a Google Trends search data over the past 12 months. I'm not sure when this came out, but they marked the different states, and like Loch Ness Monster is like the most researched in these states. Chupacabra in the Midwest. Bigfoot. It's interesting how, up in the northern states, you can tell like where some of these
Pacific
things are actually
Southwest.
appearing. But if you're interested, it's called Creelighting, CREELIGHTING.com, or just look for most popular cryptid in every state if you want to look at it. But it talks about urban legends and that sort of thing and what's popular. U.S.
The Yeti.
top search: the Yeti, Kraken,
The sea kraken.
Wendigo.
Yep.
Yeah, a
Chupacabra,
Thunderbird.
Thunderbird. Ooh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
a werewolf, which is also called a wolf man.
Yes.
Yep.
And Jersey Devil.
And Jersey Devil. I'm thinking
yeah.
My thought is, sociologically speaking, why would North and South Carolina people be particularly fascinated by the Loch Ness Monster, which is a UK/Scottish phenomenon? And my thought is that we have a very high density of Irish, Scottish, British heritage people in these two states. So essentially the UK is a type of motherland, ancestrally speaking, to a lot of Caucasian people here. Obviously not everybody, but a lot of Caucasian people come from in those areas because of the Appalachians, because the terrain looks very similar to the UK and Scotland. So yeah, their ancestors came here. I'm thinking that's my guess.
Alabama's, to answer Lisa's question, she asked, Alabama's is the werewolf. So
the wolf men is what they're called. Tribe of wolf men, also called a werewolf, depending on what language you're in. There's a lot to be said about wolf men. They're highly intelligent, is the part of the description of them. Some of them know how to use weapons. They're actually organized in a culture, and they act like combat soldiers. They're very defensive. They're very territorial. But there is another rumor that even the U.S. military has contracts and agreements with the Wolfmen to fight side by side with the front runners, the Army Rangers, the Navy SEALs, the Marines that go in first when the hand-to-hand combat is likely to be intense.
And well, shit, let's just go ahead and say it. One of the things is, if you've heard about the Dumbs, they were the ones who went in first.
Dumbs are deep underground military bases that had been used for nefarious purposes, not just military. They were abandoned and repurposed by bad guys.
Yeah. And then there's also rumor of DNA experimentation, which we've seen movies about that. Let's make the soldiers meaner and stronger and more combative, and so that was another theory that's floating around.
Mixing bear DNA with human DNA, mixing wolf DNA with human DNA. Redstone Arsenal and NASA, there that is expected. Lisa is making a comment. I'm reading it, sorry. Alpha males is Tanya's question kind of comment, and she's laughing. Yes, these are all quintessential alpha males, although I don't know what the females in their culture do. They might be just as alpha, I don't know. But from most of the reports we've read or heard, it seems to be masculine behavior. So it's possible it is a patriarchal society, and the female members play a much more domestic role, I'm guessing. Because the wolf men, they seem to be masculine.
Do you have little wolves in aprons somewhere?
Apparently, like the Sasquatch commercial. The Mrs. Sasquatch.
Yeah, pearls, clutching her pearls with
clutching
the apron on and fixing dinner.
June
Honey,
Cleaver.
did you have a bad day out in the field?
June Cleaver squatching.
Did you kill bad men?
With baby squatches running around. But yeah, the wolfmen are all about being alpha. All about. And you don't want to approach them. Heads up, if you figure out where their territory is, right now we know of a desert area in Mexico. If you wander into their territory, you will not wander out ever again. Anywhere, you will stop there, and the wolfmen will make sure, because you're on their turf.
And I did some researching on wolfmen, and one of the first links that popped up is a map of sighting areas where somebody has created like a Google map, and people are pointing where they've been seeing them, which is interesting. When you look, a lot of military bases are included.
There's a concentration like Fayetteville,
including North Carolina.
Fayetteville.
Yes.
There's a concentration of wolfmen sightings around there, and several other military bases, forts around the United States. So apparently they're very active. Apparently they have.
And watch out for long deserted highways.
Pay attention.
Remote deserted highways.
Yeah.
Like in the mountains. Hint, hint.
Or out in the desert. Or going across deserts.
Yeah.
Stay in your car. Yeah. Bring a bottle. Bring a jar. If you gotta pee. Stay in your car.
Yeah.
Lisa said some strange things in Huntsville. It's the water.
Yeah.
When you know what, Lisa, are you talking about Huntsville, Alabama, or Huntsville in another state? Because
I'm sure she's talking about Alabama, because she asked about Bama a minute ago.
Okay, because we've been hearing other weird things about Huntsville, Alabama, as well.
Yeah. And you know what's weird about Alabama? I just remember years ago when my sister was living in Mississippi and then later Louisiana, and we would drive through Alabama. That was the weirdest state to drive through. It was the first time I'd ever seen signs, no exit next 15 miles, no exit next 20 miles. The exits were far and few between, and even if you got to an exit, there may or may not be a gas station or restaurant at it. It was like you could drive miles and miles and miles before you saw a P stop or anything. And then when you did, it was very deserted. It was just strange. And we were driving it in the middle of the summer. You know, I drove it different times of the year. One time I drove it in the wintertime, one time in the summertime. And it was like, this, I mean, you didn't want to stop if you could, you know. I mean, it was just strange. I mean, been through Birmingham, that was fine. I've been to, you know, been there, but yeah, Lisa says the only reason to have Alabama
sassy in the comments. We're here, Lisa. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm sure it's a lovely place for people who live there, but
it's a strange place to visit.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, and it is right there at the top of Florida, which is not a southern state, people. Don't believe it if people try to tell you. And I've had friends that grew up in Alabama and said, yeah, I'm from LA. And it's like,
Yeah,
lower
Louisiana.
Alabama.
Lower Alabama.
No, not Louisiana.
Lower
LA is lower
Alabama.
Alabama.
That's another one. So, there's another cryptid that's very popular in that area, the Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Mexico area, the Latino culture. And you guys may have heard this word before, the chupacabra, which literally
is that this one?
Yes. And it's basically a scaly kangaroo. And chupacabra means goat sucker, which is why you see it holding down a goat, and it also has a bird in this illustration. But apparently it's sort of like a reptilian kangaroo, and it is carnivorous, and it has been seen going mostly after livestock, but it only apparently prefers to drink blood, not eat meat. And but it's not, and it's mostly a Latin concept and story, the chupacabra. However, there are stories further north, and another name for a chupacabra is the Ozark howler, obviously in the Ozark Mountains. A little bit further south in New Orleans, they're called grunches because apparently they're sighted a whole lot in New Orleans around Grunch Road, which apparently is a swampy area. And so they're called grunches in that area. And it's a swamp thing. It's a reptilian animal. Yeah, it's basically a modified scaly kangaroo with fangs. It's about the size and moves about the shape and biological kinetics that back legs with shorter front legs, powerful back legs.
Now, what's this
That one is called a little bit further east and above us in the Pine Barrens area from basically Philadelphia over to New Jersey. That's called the Jersey Devil. And basically it's a two-legged creature that walks upright for the most part, except for it has bat wings and a sort of a dog, goat, horse, goat, red-eyed head and clawish fingers, and typically called the Jersey Devil. He has been reported, and seen and drawn and photographed from the 1800s all the way up to the 1960s. I bet you can find some reports since then. Another word for the Jersey Devil is Leeds Devil, Leed, like somebody's last name, which, by the way, it's also called the Devil of Leeds. And this has been attributed to a famous family in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, which go down to Philadelphia at least. Back then it did. It's attributed to the Leeds family, and the famous Lead among that is Daniel Lead, who was the almanac publisher for Benjamin Franklin. So, the implication being here, Daniel Leeds knew something about Mother Nature and the way things do and don't go. But like Ben Franklin, he had a flair for a little bit of showmanship. And apparently, eventually, the Jersey Devil was associated to being very active on the Leeds estate that was in that area in New Jersey. And so it was called the Leeds Devil, also called the Jersey Devil. The gigantic bat that's also carnivorous. It bites and eats animals that we know about. Yeah.
I wanted to show the Mothman. And that's not a really good, the picture is better here, but it's not showing up real good on the screen. So let me get rid of that one and show you.
That's actually not bad.
If you're familiar,
that's actually not bad. He's all black and he's all black and furry with red eyes. Yeah.
But if you've ever seen the movie The Mothman Prophecies, they've actually erected a statue of the Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Yeah. And I know it looks kind
He's
of funny, right?
cut.
Yeah.
They gave him some abs. They gave him some abs.
Yes. But the Mothman Prophecies is it was a book and then made into a movie with Richard Gere. It is a fantastic and super creepy movie based on a true story. A reporter did some research. He was also a paranormal researcher and put the story together. Part of the legend of the Mothman is that he predicts or precursors or whatever you want to call it before disaster strikes. And this guy, there was a bridge that collapsed between Ohio and West Virginia, and they believed that the Mothman was making appearances before that happened. And actually was like calling this guy, and it's a creepy voice and all this stuff. Um, he's not as prolific, but he shows up in different places. So that one, and it's a really good movie if you hadn't seen it. If you just like really creepy
I
horror.
haven't seen it. So the implication is that the Mothman was actually an intelligent being that understood English and speech and social
Yes.
dynamics to some extent.
And he flies. I mean, he's like a moth. I mean, he flies, but he and has red eyes, and
He understands
and
technology
people
and
will,
speech. Yeah.
yeah. So very, very
That sounds like a
strange.
multi-dimensional creature as well.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, that does.
We also don't want to forget a couple of fun cryptids. One being, all right, is it going to show up or not? There it is. The mermaid,
Yes.
and let me hide that.
Sometimes
And I
known
don't
as
know
a
why.
siren, sometimes known as a manatee, and other times as a beautiful
Yeah.
mermaid, a little one.
Yes. And I love how it's appeared in popular culture. We all know the Little Mermaid of Disney, okay? So we're not going to give her any airtime. But Aquamarine is a cute kind of coming of age story where these two girls meet a young girl who turns out to be a mermaid. She's when she's not in the water, she's walking around, but when she's in the water, she's got fins. And then there was another show. Yes, I actually indulge in these shows on occasion.
A gargoyle.
This is called H2O. It was made in, it's a series, comedy series made in Australia where these three girls, at just the right set of circumstances, they go to this remote island from off the coast of where they live at the right time. The moon and the stars align in the right way, and boom, they're hit, and they become mermaids. And they're freaking out, and it's how they work through it. And
It's called
um,
H2O.
yeah, and it's called H2O. And what's interesting is if anybody's ever watched the Vampire Diaries or the originals, the two girls on the left in this photo, Phoebe somebody, and I can't remember the other one's name, they were both in those series. So they went on
Their
to
careers
lucrative
went
careers
on.
on the CW. But the H2O show, I think it's on Netflix or something. But it's a cute little show. But it's about dealing with being a mermaid. It rains and they have to run.
Right,
Kind of
right.
thing.
Lisa
Yeah,
Klein. Lisa Klein commented a gargoyle, and I'm
that was
thinking she's the Mothman. Yeah,
that was
or
it was
the
the other one.
chupacabra, the
No, the one in
chupacabra,
between,
Jersey
the
Devil.
Jersey Devil. Yeah,
Yeah, they look
yeah,
gargoylish. Yeah.
yeah. We
Which means
also
they're in
want to
Europe.
pay homage to the Pegasus. He's an
Yeah,
ancient being, wings and
a horse with
um,
wings. Yeah.
yeah. And then we also have unicorns, unicorns.
Unicorns with their little fruit poops. Yes. And
Yes,
and
and
that's
love, yeah, the fruit poops. They fart rainbows, right?
yes, exactly.
Um,
You know where I was going with that.
yeah, and how they show up in popular culture. If you've never seen Charlie the Unicorn, it is a hysterical, very twisted cartoon that you can find on YouTube.
Oh boy.
And I quote it all the time. We're gonna have an adventure, Charlie. Come with us. And it's these two little unicorns that get Charlie the unicorn. He's like this really gruff unicorn. Come with us, Charlie. We're going to Candy Mountain, Charlie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It is absolutely twisted and sick and hysterical if you like that kind of thing. Otherwise, you're going to think, Iris, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But look it up on YouTube, Charlie the Unicorn. He's and also Legend was a Ridley
A
Scott movie
lot
with
of
Tom
cryptids in that
Cruise.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and the unicorn was one very sad scene where the unicorn gets killed, and then of course Tim Curry is Satan. So very, very cool
Very telling
movie.
about Hollywood and
And
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Satanic
So
rituals going on in there. Yep.
yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to make sure I've gotten caught up with all the pictures. I think we've shown everything that we were going to cover.
Well, I wanted to, while you're looking through that, I was doing the reason. It came up on me. Hang on. Excuse me. Doesn't want to be said. Well, we're saying it anyway. This is no big deal. I came up with 15 different names for the creature Bigfoot. There are other words for it besides Bigfoot, and they're literally, I found hundreds. I picked out the ones that I can pronounce in English, and I picked out ones that were apparently used a lot in Southeast United States, which is the geographic area we're in right now. So just to rattle off some are in English and some are not so much, but Nuckluck, sort of an Eskimo sound, bad smelling man, cave yeller, wild man, hairy man. In Australia, they're called yahoos, probably because of the sound they make. And the doulagarl. There is also the Ohio grassman, the goo-goo, the jacko, the kustaka, also known as monkey man, but he's also known as old skunky. Apparently he doesn't smell that good. Remember, he's also called bad smelling man. There's the rougarou. He's also called a wendigo sometimes. And you all know the word yeti. And they're also in Canada, they're called yellow tops. There are Sasquatch that are blonde. And very much
The blondes have more fun.
Apparently the blondes have a lot of fun. And there's even footage of nearly albino Sasquatch. Apparently that doesn't seem to bother them. In terms of camouflage, they come anyway. Send you some links on that if you'd like. But I wanted to share some of those cool, funny names that humans have attributed to our bipedal brothers that are yet to be entirely not acknowledged yet.
That have not been manscaped.
That have not discovered the joys of manscaping. And the tedium, the joys and the tedium of manscaping.
Yes. So yeah, so that's just kind of giving you an introduction. We are, like I said, hoping to get Jessica on the show in the future. So we'll do an even deeper dive into some of this stuff. Next week for our show, we are very excited. We've got Tony Rodriguez, and he is a secret space program experiencer. Yes, he was on a 20-year tour. He's written an autobiography called the series Colony Cavalier, which I bought at the conference and plan on reading. And he's got a new book called The Project Star Maker,
which is the sequel.
Yeah, and it gives us a look at the monstrous practice of slavery used in covert programs both on Earth and in space, and how the secret space program works and what it does. Tony is a very sincere person. He he's just a super, super nice guy. And
Very
he
genuine, very grounded, very
yes.
realistic.
So we think y'all will enjoy
He's also a very
talking and
good
asking him
speaker.
questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's open to questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we will have him on next week, and I'm working on the program for the rest of the month right now. Margot and I are gonna get off here and talk about the rest of the schedule for the month.
The
But I
topics.
got up with Tony, and he came right back and said he could be on next week, and I'm like, oh yeah.
So we're very
So
excited about that.
Let's see who I'm going to shake the jar, even though it doesn't move the heads when I do it. And I'm going to click this for getting a winner.
Drum roll.
Nancy Vandeloop, it was your first week on here. We're very glad that you joined us. I'm going to mail you one of these bells. It's a cowbell. It really does ring, but it doesn't ring well on the show because of our noise canceling microphones.
Yeah.
But I will put one of these in the mail to you. I believe you joined us through Facebook. If you're still watching, I will message you and get your address so I can send you one of these. And we'll do this drawing every so often as I have boxes to mail them and feel like sending the shipping. So
when it's convenient. And
when it's convenient, we'll do the drawing. How's that? I like doing
and
these
when
once
it's
in a while.
practical. There you go. And it's fun.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for playing along and listening and asking and commenting. Lisa, you hit it out of the ballpark. It was an excellent conversation. Thank you, sweetie. We encourage other people to play along at any time.
And so until next week, please tune in next week. Let's give Tony a big welcome, and we'll print out the list soon so everybody can know what's coming up. So just check our Facebook page for details. Anything else I'm forgetting?
Like, share, and subscribe. Facebook and YouTube.
Yes. All right, folks. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining The Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details at www.facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo. Show is copyright 2023 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. All